All right, I get this question a lot. When should I start running ads for my agency, for my SMMA? I personally started running ads when I was doing about 20, 25,000 a month. Within 90 days, I was at 75 to 80,000 a month. So obviously everybody wants that to happen, right? We all want to scale as fast as possible. So this question comes up a lot, and there are a lot of different variables that come into play here. So I'm going to kind of make a matrix. If you know what a matrix is, it's multiple lists that you can link different parts of different lists to, for a non-mathematical way to put it. And then we can find out, does it make sense for you to run ads, or when should you run ads, and when makes the most sense, in my opinion, and from my personal experience, because I've also worked with 60, 70 agency owners at this point, and I've had this question quite a few times, especially for people who are in kind of that range of 10, 20, 30,000 a month. That being said, the first one is your skill set. So, particularly, we're just going to pretend this isn't underlined. Copywriting, that's going to be a big one. Appointment setting, sales, so like closing. Offer creation is going to be another one. Sales, and we can also say script writing, which is kind of copywriting, but it's kind of not at the same time. It's a little bit of its own skill set. These are going to be some of the core skills. Now, obviously, if you're running ads, media buying is going to be one of them as well. Now, the thing is, you don't have to start ads with all of these skills, but there are kind of like minimum baseline skills that you do need, unless you're going to be working with somebody who's going to be doing part of it for you, or doing some of the heavy lifting, or reviewing your work and correcting your work if you're not good enough. Because otherwise, if you're not good enough at copywriting straight out the gate, you're going to be kind of screwed, and you're just going to be burning money on ads, and you're not even going to get leads or calls within KPI. So that's why your copywriting skill is very important. When it comes to media buying, like, targeting is not a challenge at all. Like, you just select big audiences, and the real targeting happens on the copy level. So in your ad scripting, in your copywriting, on landing pages, etc. So that's where the targeting actually happens. And the thing is, like landing pages are part of media buying and whatnot, and the tracking and everything like that, some of the tech stuff, although that tracking stuff's easy and it's easy to find on YouTube. But some of the more nuanced parts of this, like, how do you call out the right person? How do you write a good ad? These kinds of things are where a lot of beginners who try ads for the first time run into problems. And that happened to me early on. I tried to randomly run ads. I had no idea what I was doing. I spent like $1,200 thinking like paid ads. And that happened to me early on. Like, when I ran ads for the first time, my revenue was like nothing. And I dropped $1,200 on ads, which was a lot for me at the time. And I had no idea what I was doing. My costs were like way out of control, and things just didn't work properly. I understood the media buying side, but the copywriting side, much less so, especially for my industry. I had been doing ads for my clients up to that point, but the problem was that I wasn't good enough. I didn't know the industry well enough. I didn't know who I was selling to well enough. And like, you need to be you don't need to be, but you at least need to be you need to be good at sales to an extent to be good at copy. Like, it really, really helps at least. But what you really need is to be in touch with the market and understand what the market wants, and sales is a great way to do that. In all of my rambling here, do you need to be good at sales to run paid ads? Oh yeah. Like, you need to be better at sales than you would think with like cold outreach, for example. It's actually more challenging unless you run certain types of funnels. Like, what I like to do is run a low ticket funnel where you're selling a product, building trust, and then upselling, so that you don't need to be as good at sales, and you don't need to be as good at really like the script writing and offer creation and all sorts of stuff, and it kind of acts as appointment setting as a whole. And you can also kind of put appointment setting and sales under the same umbrella. But your offer creation skills need to be pretty good too. Like, you need to have a really strong offer for it to work with ads. And from my experience, selling from cold outreach is a lot easier, and you can get away with more. Like, you can have a worse offer, you can be worse at sales, you can be worse at appointment setting. You don't even really need to know copywriting that well, except for like, getting somebody to respond to a cold email or a cold DM. And so outreach is generally much more forgiving. So a lot of people, when they think they're gonna like run a call funnel, like a traditional, like I generate a lead and call them and book a call, or like a VSL funnel, they end up getting kind of shocked at how challenging it really is, because there's a lot of, it's very nuanced. So that being said, how skilled do you need to be in each of these categories? Again, copywriting, like ideally you have some paid ads experience, or you have sales experience, or you've made some kind of marketing work before, right? Because otherwise you're just going to be throwing money out the window. And generally speaking, if you're doing 10, 20, 30 grand a month, you don't have that much money to throw away. Although sure, you can afford to drop 3K or something like that and kind of mess it up. But copywriting is definitely helpful. Sales is very important. Less so, again, if you're doing like a low ticket upsell funnel or something like that. In terms of appointment setting, still important, not as important because it's pretty easy. Offer creation, definitely important. And then the media buying side is also important, but this isn't that complex. The main thing is going to be more of like the copywriting and these things here. So just a bit of a fair warning. If you can't close from cold outreach, like you're not going to close from ads, right? Like if you can't get positive replies from cold outreach, like you're not going to do well with ads. If you can't book appointments, same thing. If your offer's not working, right, which would still say that you can't close or people aren't responding to your messages here, it's not going to work very well with ads either, generally speaking. And if you don't know media buying, that's not as much of a concern. Now, the next thing that I recommend looking at is your current methods, your current lead gen methods. So like, what are you doing right now? What's working? What's not working? And really the main question here is what's working. Because let's say you have cold email working and you can scale it. If you can scale. If not, maybe you run ads, right? Very simple logic, but if you can scale that, scale it first. Like that's a really big thing. Like before running ads, if you have something that's working and you can just send more cold emails, you'll double your business overnight if you just send double the emails, right? Then you can worry about running ads. And if anything, that'll make you more money so that you can afford to mess up more with ads. Because ads is not like, a one and done thing. Like odds are when you started your cold email or your cold DMs or your cold calling, you probably weren't a magician with it right away. Ads are the same thing, generally speaking. It's a bit of a process or a journey to learn, as is any other skill. So we want to make sure that you have some cash, and we'll get into that in a little bit. But again, if you have something that's working, just scale it. Like don't get distracted and be like, oh, ads are the magical sauce or whatever. And again, like if you're not successful with outreach in the first place, unless you're a really seriously skilled advertiser and salesperson and you're just struggling to get positive replies and you have cash in the bank, like sure, run ads. But generally speaking, like I recommend getting to like kind of a bare minimum of, 8 to 10 grand a month with outreach before you start running ads. And so like, well, what's not working? Like, can you improve what's not working? That's one question to ask. So what's not working? Can you improve what's not working? Very simple question. Are you almost there? That's even more important. If you're not even close, like you can just scrap the thing that you're kind of working on if it's less scalable than ads. If it's something that's very highly scalable, like maybe a ton of your market's on Instagram and you're like halfway to getting a good positive reply rate, like just double down on that for a little bit. Give yourself 2 months, that'll be working, then you can scale that up. And then you can push ads back, right? Now, the last thing that I'm going to cover here is money itself. So like how much money do you need to run ads is one question, right? So we'll cover that. But then on top of that, like at what revenue level should I run ads? So how much money, like I generally recommend having 3 to 5K set aside. If you're doing like a regular call funnel, and oftentimes it can take more than this to recoup your cash. It can. If you have something that's already working with outreach and everything and you're just simply pushing it over to ads, Your KPIs won't be magic right away, generally speaking, but 3 to 5K will have you covered there, and you can get that working. You know, if you're closing at 30, 35, 40% on your outreach, like I was, like, you know, 3K was all I really needed to make sure everything was working. But you want to be prepared to just like blow this money and just throw it out the window. Like if you're comfortable doing that, then great. And to get a little bit deeper into this, you know, I recommend setting aside 6 months of just operating expenses and taking the 3 to 5K out of whatever's left after this. So let's say your operating expenses are $2,000 a month. You want to set aside 12K and not touch that 12K. And then from the remaining money, let's say you have 20K, you can play with 3 to 5 of that, you know, remaining $8,000, right, as your kind of initial amount that you're willing to go down. Some people have a higher risk tolerance. You know, let's say you have extremely low living expenses or no living expenses, which is more true for young people. In that case, like, sure, you can risk more and whatnot. Or if you're like in a really dire situation. I mean, if you're in a dire situation, should you be running ads? Generally speaking, I don't recommend that because of the complexity or challenge involved, unless, again, you're working with someone who like really knows what they're doing. That's a bit of a different story. But I personally recommend setting aside 6 months of operating expenses. And, you know, at what revenue level should I run ads? It's not really like that. It's not so much dependent on revenue level. Like, a lot of people kind of think like, oh, should I run ads at 10K a month, 20K a month, 40K a month? Like some people get up to 7 figures without even running ads. And then they start running ads. Some people it's 50 grand a month. For me personally, it was 20 to 25, right? And it depends on the configuration of your business. So for example, for me, I was good at copywriting. I love paid ads personally. And like, that's my number one skill set, like hands down. Good at appointment setting. You know, I was closing with my cold email at like 37% on average over an extended period of time. You know, I was good at script writing. My offer was working, and it was pretty strong. Good at media buying already, so I was very well prepared on that side of things. This is the second and third time I was running ads. The second time I ran Facebook ads, and I had a decent return, but it wasn't good enough, and I wanted to kind of pivot, and I had a gut feel about switching my strategy, and that ended up working. And so that was working, and then 2 months later I switched my strategy, and then that scaled me like crazy. But in terms of what was working, cold email was working for me, and I had already scaled it. Okay. And that was all I really had. I had like 2 cold email methods, and I could only improve them so much, and I could only send so many emails over X amount of time before I'd have to recycle the list. And I was kind of running out of options or ideas. Now, to be fair, I could have gone into like cold Instagram if I wanted to, but I knew ads were more scalable. I was really excited to run ads, so that's what had me want to run ads in the first place. So I had kind of, you know, maxed out what I already wanted to do, and I didn't really like the whole cold Instagram thing personally. I was like tired of outreach and warming accounts and spam folders and this kind of stuff. So I wasn't really down to play that game. I wanted to just run ads, and there was nothing better than ads for me to do at the time, as for my like perception at least. And from a money standpoint, I could totally blow 3 to 5K. You know, I don't remember exactly how much I had in the bank, but it was at least like 20 or 25 grand. It might even have been, you know, when I did ads the third time, I want to say it was like 40 or 50 grand maybe I had in the bank. So like 3 to 5K, I was like, yeah, let's do it. I don't care. And that was pretty light work. You know, my operating expenses were very low at that point. It was maybe 2K a month. So like, you know, 12K at 6 months. I mean, you know, I had like 3 years of expenses at that point. Or 3 years, 18 months, I mean, at that point, at 2K a month. And then for my revenue level at the time, again, it was 20, 25 grand a month. But what matters more, again, is the rest of these variables. So for me, that's what made sense. So for your situation, it's like, and again, you can run ads with these, like with skill deficits. Just make sure that you're working with somebody who knows what they're doing and can show you how to do that, right? Or use a certain type of method that makes up for one area that's lacking. Like maybe you want to, if you're not the best at copywriting, maybe you don't want to use a VSL funnel because those are quite complex. And I made a video, like a tier list video covering different funnel types. and that's on my channel. It was somewhat recent. For paid ads funnels, right? For scaling from 10, 20, 30, 50 to 100K a month plus. So if you're not great at copywriting, maybe you'll want to use like a really copywriting light funnel. So not a VSL funnel, right? Maybe it's more phone focused if you're better at appointment setting and sales. Or if you're worse at sales or you hate appointment setting, then maybe you want to use like a low ticket funnel, or a low ticket funnel to make up for your lack of sales skill. Or maybe you want to use some type of like, automated like a VSL funnel to just get more people booked in automatically, right? Or whatever else, right? Again, if you're in a position where, you have something that's working and you've scaled it up, and scaling isn't as simple as let's just double what we're doing now, then sure, you can run ads. But again, if you can scale something, just scale it first. It'll give you more money, and then make running ads more comfortable, like it did for me. And if something's like not working or almost working, that's a good indicator. Hey, maybe let's just focus on that for 1 to 2 months, especially if it's lower risk, and do that. And then again, from a money standpoint, if you're good here, then you're good. So that's kind of my really simple, high level, off the dome take on, when should I start running ads? And this is true for agencies, coaches, consulting businesses, whatever else. But I'm talking a little more specifically, I guess, in an agency context here, although it's very similar for the rest of them. But yeah, that's all. So if you do want to work with me personally and like build a low ticket call funnel, for example, where it, we get automatic bookings, so you don't have to, chase people and do a million phone calls for appointment setting, and they're warmed up, so it's a lot easier from a sales standpoint. Then you can book a call with me in the description, or if you even just, maybe even if you're below 10 grand a month and you want to, work on scaling your business, your outreach, whatever else, we can talk about that too. So just book a call there. Otherwise, totally fine. Just click whatever's popping up on screen now, and I'll see you there.